Hello everyone, and welcome to part 0 of Romancing Saga 3. Alright, this seems like a good place to talk. Okay, so, what is part 0? I might hear some of you ask. Well, uh-oh. It's not a safe place. Maybe if I just keep doing this, it won't trigger. So part 0... feel free to skip if you're just here. Oh my god. Okay. New game? There we go. Okay. Hopefully, I didn't want to spoil this for you. Hey, look, there's characters you can choose to play from. Hopefully that won't trigger the intro. Okay, so, what is part 0? Well, feel free to skip it immediately from here and go play part 1 if you're already familiar with what Romancing Saga 3 is, or if you're just, willing to dive straight in and not really give a shit about the, the inner workings of the game. But part 0 basically is just me giving you exactly what you need to know in order to jump straight into Romancing Saga 3. Since the game is heading to Switch about a month from now exactly. Today's the 5th of October, and I believe it's coming the 11th of November, so 11/11/2019. So, part 0 is basically just for you guys who have never heard of a SaGa game before. What the hell is that? And, this is it. This is, I'm just gonna explain to you what it is. So, yeah, feel free to skip ahead, or if you're just looking to understand the game, please listen to part 0, where I explain what the hell choosing a character even means in this game. Because as you can see, there are 8 distinct characters that you can choose from. Now, some of you might have played other Saga games, like Romancing Saga 1 or Saga Frontier, just to give a few examples, where you have the same screen here, and some of you might even have played Octopath Traveler, which came out last year, I believe. It's hard to pinpoint a date. I never played Octopath Traveler, but it seemed very inspired by the Saga games. I'm not gonna lie. So you might be familiar with this already. But basically, all of these characters are already in the game as themselves, as characters. You are choosing one to play as a protagonist, but then you can go on and meet any of these 8 characters later in the game, and even recruit them, or at least some of them. There are some restrictions, there's some changes between each of the characters that makes them distinct from each other. And of course, all of the characters have their own stats, their own unique starting stats that make certain builds better with certain characters. Like, if you're going for a full intelligence build, you're going to want to go Thomas, right here, this boy, or Sarah. Thomas's peak intelligence is 27, and Sarah's is 26. And etc., stuff like that. Katrina's peak speed, for instance, is like a whopping 28, I believe. So yeah, you'll have fun making, the best builds that you possibly can between the characters. But there's also unique things between all of the characters that you will not be able to get if you chose, Herod, for instance. This boy right down here, who is actually named Khalid in the new, the actual localized version. This is a fan translation I'm playing right now, so you'll see a few changes if you're a month ahead of us already and you've picked up Romancing Saga 3 and found your way back here. You're going to see quite a few name changes. That's just because this game never had the opportunity to actually be brought over to America before. This is a big deal for all Saga fans everywhere. Back to the point I was making. If you pick Herod, for instance, Herod, or Khalid, there's a certain point where you can sneak into a church, which you won't have to do, but it's beneficial to you if you do. And Herod is the only character who will refuse to sneak in, because his character involves having him hold a few whatever the word is, he doesn't like the church. let's just say. So he's unwilling to wear the clothing in order to sneak in, because it's like a direct jab at him, he feels. So there's a few things like that. Sarah, for instance, has a lot that's unique to her. She's technically the protagonist of the 8, although you don't have to play as her if you don't want to, of course. So she has a lot of unique things to her. For instance, there's a lot of characters that'll join only if she's in the party. You know, there's a guy called Shonen, who is actually just Young Boy, if you know your Japanese, and he's actually known as Young Boy if you play in the English localized version next month as well. He can only be recruited if you're playing as Sarah. Although for spoiler reasons I don't want to get into, I wouldn't recommend recruiting him, even. And then there's an elephant named Raksha, or Zoe, in this edition, as you'll see, because I'm definitely going to pick him up throughout this run. Yeah, he's another character that you won't be able to recruit unless you have Sarah in your party, I believe. Might be wrong about that. I think that's what it is. And etc, etc. So, yeah, so this, part 2 is just going to be telling you the essentials. Not everything, not every distinction between other characters, but just the stuff that you would need to know. So anyway, don't play as Sarah. So let's start with the male. So there's 4 male characters here: Julian, Thomas, Michael, and Khalid/Herod. So Julian, let's start with him. So he is I love Julian. He's one of my favorite anime protagonists of fucking SNES games. I love his design. He's so punk. He's so 90s. It's unbelievable. But the thing with Julian is he's very default anime protagonist. He's Hunter Sword by default. And oh my god, I'm gonna have to explain to you what this means. I didn't even think about that. So, okay. There are no classes. As contrarian as this may seem, this isn't actually choosing a class. This is choosing a stat modifier at the very beginning of the game. Let me just show you, for instance. So this right here is your actual stat spread. This is what matters, because as you'll see these stats right down here, strength, dexterity, speed, constitution, intelligence, willpower, and finally charisma, they will stay the exact same all the way through the game. There are slight exceptions to that rule. There's item modifiers and stuff. But for the most part, yeah, this is exactly what you'll be seeing. The HP changes, of course. Your health is going to go up. Your tech and magic points, which are right above the stats, those will be going up. And your weapon levels, which are the numbers on the far right, those are going to change as well. Right now he has 3 sword and big sword weapon level, and 0 everything else. So what you need to be paying attention to are the stats. Strength, dexterity, speed, blah blah blah. I already named them out. That's where, let's go back in, these come into play. So Hunter, I believe, I might be wrong, I don't have it all boiled down to an exact science. I believe Hunter actually increases your dexterity and your speed stats at the detriment of your other stats. Scholar is very much intelligence. You'll see that I already buffed his intelligence and buffed his dexterity a little bit at the expense of his speed and his constitution. Royalty is all about HP. You'll see the HP actually increased by a lot, and his strength went up. I'm sorry. His speed went way down. And fighter is all about strength and constitution. Yeah, look at that. 21 strength, 18 con. And merchant is dexterity and constitution, it looks like. Okay, so you get the point. And these are all the weapons of the game. So sword and big sword, you'll see are represented at the top there. They both are at the same level. Axe and mace are the second level right there. EP and spear are the third level. Bow has its own level, it's all by itself. Boo-hoo. And so is Kung Fu. as you can see there. Now, none is interesting. None is for specifically characters that you want to build magic towards. So if you hit none, you'll see right there, all the way at the bottom, I just have 1 level in sun magic right now. So none is specifically, you know, if you want to be a mage, I would suggest scholar, which boosts your intelligence, as we discussed earlier, and none. So that'll give me a intelligence of 20 and sun level magic. So that's basically how, you know, character creation goes. Oh yeah, and I mean, you might have seen it already, but your weapon type does boost your stats a little tiny bit. So see, I have 19 intelligence right now. If I went over to Big Sword, I would have 16 intelligence, etc., etc. So Thomas is going to be your intelligence man. If you, I mentioned it earlier, if you went intelligence, if you went none scholar, you start with a whopping 27 intelligence. It's insane. The highest natural intelligence that you can possibly have in the entire game, between all of your characters, not just the ones that you can customize at the beginning. So there's a lot of opportunities here for maximizing your potentials. Michael. So Michael has a lot of unique things. He actually is a lord. So he starts off with a whole bunch of shit, like his own blacksmith. So, and his own mini-game. Thomas also has his own mini-game, but other players can play it as well if you do Thomas's intro mission, which we will be doing, even though we're not playing as Thomas. And finally, Herod, who's like the badass, you know, swordsman, so he has a good amount of strength already. You know, he's got really good stats here, 20 speed, 17 constitution. Excellent, excellent choice for both a player character and as someone to recruit as well. So let's jump over to the female characters. Oh, right, let me go back. So, little things you need to know. If you're playing as Julian, just know that you're up for one of the longest intros in the game. So the first quest on our list that we're going to be doing, because I'm actually making my own list, let me just plug this real quick. So, I don't know why I use the word plug. I'm not selling anything, but in the description you're going to see, I haven't written it down yet actually, but I'm going to have a notepad of all of the quests in the game in the order that I would suggest you do them in. Now this is important because, as far as I know, there are no guides on the internet. There are a lot of helpful guides about this game, centered around this game. But as far as I can tell, there are no guides on the internet that tell you exactly what order that you should be doing all of the quests in the game, because it's very freeform. If you ever played a Bethesda game, for instance, think like that. You have the opportunity to perform a lot of the quests, but you're not going to be prepared for most of them at the start of the game. So that's where my order is going to be very, very handy. So anyway, yeah, Julian's going to be prepared for you're going to be prepared for a long ass intro. Julian and Monica over here have the longest intros by far, because they stick together the whole damn time. Katrina, actually, if you watch any speedruns of this game, you'll notice that she will be the choice of every speedrunner of this game because she has such a short intro. It's wonderful. If you know what you're doing, it'll take, 2 minutes to get through her intro. So anyway, Thomas, yeah, he has his own minigame, like I mentioned, which is pretty fun to play. I'll show you what it looks like, but we won't really be playing it because it doesn't matter to us at all. The minigame only really gives you money if you complete it, and then it'll transform Thomas's ending, I believe, but just his ending, if you end up beating it. So Michael, I might have mentioned, has his own blacksmith. That's crazy. And he has his own minigame, which is a war minigame that you won't be able to play with the other characters, unlike Thomas's minigame. And Herod, he's got that church thing that I talked about earlier, but for the most part, He's running by the same stuff that everyone else is. He doesn't really have too many unique qualities about him. Okay, so for the female characters, SaGa has a lot of unique things like I was talking about. But I wouldn't recommend SaGa for a newcomer. If you guys, any women participating right now watching, just be aware of SaGa, because she's got a lot of unique things to her that can be tough for someone who doesn't really know the game. I don't want to spoil things. I'm just gonna say, yeah, tough road ahead for SaGa fans. So Ellen, oh, poor Ellen. Ellen is probably the character that has so little. She has the least involvement in this storyline, and it's sad because she's SaGa's sister, even. She has absolutely nothing unique to her as far as I'm aware. I know this game pretty well. If you are going for the most vanilla possible run, then please, by all means, play Ellen, because she needs representation. But there's very little unique about her run. And there's Monica. So an interesting thing about Monica and Michael that I didn't really go into is, one, you're not allowed to have both of them on the same team. For reasons you'll see later, presumably, if we get that far. So yeah, another thing is, Julian, I should have mentioned this earlier. Julian, is going to be locked to us, actually. We won't have the ability to recruit Julian for quite a while into the game, unless you play as Michael or Monica, who have the instance to recruit the availability to recruit Julian right away. So we will not be having Julian in our party, since we're not going to be playing as Michael or Monica. Sorry. And finally, Katrina, my favorite character personally, but we're not going to be playing as her in this run, simply because the intro is so short and it covers so little that it's going to be a very poor place to enter for anyone watching who has no experience with this game. So, she's not a great choice for a first-time playthrough of the game, but she is personally my favorite character. Love Katrina. But we're actually going to be playing as Herod, because I think he has a great intro. It's not too long, and it's he meets all of the characters, so he has a great point and a great entrance point. Although I suppose we should name him. We should name him Khalid, since that is his new name. So how do they spell it? Oh shit! I should have checked this before even. I think it's, oh god. Alright, I believe it's spelled like that. You know what, give me a second, I'm gonna look this up. So, okay, hey, I'm back. Sorry for that cut. Yeah, that's how you spell it. So we're gonna play as Khalid. Oh. Did I hit the wrong button? No, I hit the right button. Alright, so we're gonna keep him as a fighter. And we're going to keep him with sword too. So an interesting thing about Khalid, he actually is the only player character that you can choose here of the 8 that starts with one unique thing about their inventory. So Khalid is forced to have a specific type of sword in his inventory at all times. It's really bizarre, but there are certain characters, like there's a bard that you can recruit later that has to have his little instrument with him at all times. He has like a fiddle, etc., etc. There's a character with a teddy bear, I believe. But for him, he has to have a sword. So we're gonna keep him on the sword because, yeah, I don't want that to be a detriment to us. I don't want to pick, you know, spear and have him have a spear and a sword in his inventory at all times. So, yeah, okay. So that was part 0. I'm gonna hit play, and then that'll be part 1. So thank you for watching. I hope I explained everything. Oh, I did not. Oh my god. How irresponsible of me. So let me explain real quick before you guys swap over. What do the stats mean? I've been telling you to watch for these stats. I haven't told you what to look out for. So first off, your tech points, up top what I have 29 out of 29, that's going to be how often you can use special abilities related specifically to your weapons. And I'll explain more of that later once we get into the game itself. But you also have magic points, which are specific to, obviously, magic, of which we have none, and we will stay with none, because there's no reason not to give all of your characters magic, except for the fact that if you stay specifically with tech points, it'll cost less. All the weapon skills will cost less tech points, essentially. So you'll see. I'll explain all of it in later parts. That's not important. Let's go down to the stats. So strength determines, obviously, how much damage you're going to be doing with your weapons, although the weapon levels themselves are what really matters. So you don't have to pay attention too much to the strength. Just as long as your level is, high. If you have level 50 swords, you don't have to worry about what strength you have. Although a character with 21 strength and level 30 swords is obviously going to do more than a character with 18 strength and level 30 swords. Dexterity is how often you hit. Speed is interesting. So speed is the order in which you hit, but also, as far as I know, I might be wrong, this might actually be dex. And then I'll have my foot in my mouth, but I believe it's speed that determines how much damage specifically your EPs, which is a rapier, or your bows do. Strength determines the damage for all other weapons, including your fists, but speed is what determines damage for those two weapons specifically. Constitution is how much damage you'll be taking. That's your natural defense, your natural armor. Intelligence is how much damage or health that your magic will do or gain if you pick healing or damaging magic. Willpower is your resistance to certain magics, and charisma is your resistance to certain magic effects as well. So those aren't really important. You really don't have to pay attention to willpower or charisma. Alright, so that's it. I think with that out of the way, we're ready. So yeah, I'll see you in part 1. I hope you're all ready. I hope you're ready to enjoy Romancing Saga 3. Let's get started.